Former Vice President Joe Biden, and I want to sort of run through this with you. You have the White House, you have the FBI, you have the media, you have big tech. But first, let's go to former Vice President Joe Biden when he was asked about the Hunter Biden scandals. And it gets better than the initial part of the clip.
As much as you don't want it to happen, you know that the people who want to make hay in Washington are going to try to use your adult son as a cudgel against you. How do you feel about that, and what do you have to say to those people?
Well, look, we have great confidence in our son.
Why?
I am not concerned about any accusations been made against him. It's used to get to me. I think it's kind of foul play, but look, it is what it is.
You just bought him new teeth.
He's a grown man. He is the smartest man I know. I mean, in sort of pure intellectual capacity. And as long as he's good, we're good.
Well, he's not good.
As a father, I understand that, and I admire that.
Well, you shouldn't. He's the smartest man you've known. 3 laptops. How about he's smart enough to stop buying laptops? Just install an app. Find my crack top. He can at least get one of the 3 back.
Well, look, in all fairness, Joe Biden has spent the last, 700 years in politics, and there aren't that many bright people apparently in politics, so it is the smartest person he knows.
There are fewer bright people in politics than there are child pornographers. There are fewer bright people in politics than there are child pornographers who lose 3 laptops.
Lose.
Well, usually when the FBI takes the laptop, they also take the guy who owns it.
Right. Especially considering that he's the videographer.
Yeah, not in
he
this
was
case.
the cinematographer.
They
He
don't
wasn't just engaging in sex with a minor. He was Fellini-ing it. You're like, is that a Dutch angle? Look at what?
Yeah, this is... The lighting is spectacular.
It absolutely
how
is
did you do
spectacular. I felt like I was watching Chinatown.
That was amazing.
We're not worried about it. We think it's foul play. Do you understand the liability, first off, not only of this being his son, and we act like he's a kid. He's a grown-ass man. He's a man with hair plugs. His son. I'm not talking about former Vice President Biden.
In his 50s.
And he was cutting business deals with his father internationally. Do you have any idea the kind of leverage that they would have on him? For crying out loud, people had Hoover by the balls because he dressed up like a woman every now and then.
He was making millions from a company that he was the CEO of while just living in Malibu doing crack.
Yes, and drywall.
Seriously, the best job ever.
This is gypsum. We can make that into drugs.
So I want to rewind back in time because this was prior. This would have been the, and now you know, October surprises. If Democrats drop them, it'll be everywhere. If a true October surprise drops from conservatives, Republicans, big tech and media will just black it out. And now you know, we don't need to talk about Russia meddling in an election. We have big tech meddling. You don't even need to talk about votes and absentee ballots, or people who, by the way, have been indicted for ballot tampering, or pallets of votes showing up in Detroit at 3:30 a.m. in red flyer wagons.
It's okay. It's fine.
Before we get to any of that,
Just a cooler.
burying a significant story which happened from the president, the entire government, our intelligence officials, the FBI, big tech, removing. That's enough to have changed this election. That's all you need. It's enough. So, in case you've forgotten, you remember that media did not want to report on this story when it broke prior to the election, and of course tried to dismiss it as something Russian disinformation, which was the actual lie.
For all we know, these emails are made up, or maybe some are real and others are fakes. We don't know.
That's right,
but we
you don't.
do know that this is a classic example of the right-wing media machine. A tip from Bannon and a hard drive dump from Rudy led a former producer for Sean Hannity's show to write a story for the New York Post that gets splashed on the front page that Rudy then used to trash the Bidens all over Fox, and they're doing it almost every hour of the day. And Trump has been hyping the drama for days on end, and this is how it goes on and on. Now let's pull up Don Jr.'s tweet from just a little while ago. He says, how will the media attempt to sweep this one under the rug? That is the meta narrative. That's the big story they're telling. All about grievance and bias and victimhood.
And you think it's the biggest issue to campaign on?
I think it's one of the biggest scandals I've ever seen, and you don't cover it. You want to talk about?
Well, because it can't be verified.
You want to talk about insignificant things?
I'm telling you.
Of course,
just didn't want to.
Excuse me. They found the laptop, Leslie.
It can't be verified.
What can't be verified?
The laptop.
Go to Rudy Giuliani's apartment.
Right, they have it.
The family on the laptop He's gone into hiding. For 5 days, he's gone into hiding.
He's preparing for your debate.
Oh, it's taken him 5 days to prepare? I get it. I get it. Okay, all right.
And this is what they do, right? Brian Stelter, they go, we just don't know. No, you don't want to know. It can't be verified. You haven't even attempted to verify it.
Yeah.
You have not even attempted to verify it, just like with Project Veritas, just like when we here infiltrated Antifa and someone got arrested with the weapon that they handed to my producer that day. They had no interest in verifying it whatsoever, nor did the FBI, who we later found out, one of the members of the FBI who we were working with as it related to infiltrating Antifa, part of the sting who plotted the Whitmer murder. Yeah, I found that one out. They were trying to honeypot us, and it didn't work because it turns out that we're just decent people here, so they moved on down the trail. My point is this. The media says, we don't know. Well, you can know. We didn't verify. How about you verify it? It's like when Ilhan Omar married her brother. They're like, well, we couldn't verify it, so it's not true. Okay, it's your job. Verify it.
Right. And Brian Stelter there, you could very, very clearly see
Fourth chin?
he was doing. Yes. All he was doing was carrying water for the Biden administration, or the previous,
He's bloated.
trying to get elected to become the administration.
Yeah.
He was basically just carrying water for the guy. And it was so obvious to us at the time. If you want to cover that story and you don't know that it's real, you can say, big if true, something along those lines, and say this is breaking. We cannot confirm.
Well, you mean like they did for a very, very long time on Russia?
Yes.
When this is big if true. Turns out it wasn't true, which is just brings us to the next point. Our institutions, they want to claim that we're sowing distrust. Well, I'm not sowing distrust so much as I am. You shouldn't trust them. 50 former intelligence officials signed a letter calling the emails.
Yeah.
Right? Calling some of the information on these laptops Russian disinformation, which we know is verifiably false. As you now know, I'm not saying it, the New York Times is saying it.
So they had to sign a petition to change a narrative?
Yes.
Pretty much.
Wow.
And they say we're intelligence officials. So you can trust us. Well, now that I'm not saying this, the New York Times is saying that obviously the story is confirmed. So those officials, are they going to be brought up on charges?
Somebody should.
Is anyone going to face any? First off, they should face charges for election meddling. They should face charges for at least being, I don't know if you can be an accessory, but anyone who didn't verify or had access to this laptop, child pornography. Just to be clear, I don't think there's a charge for incestuous pornography, but there should be because it's gross. And if you do that, Ilhan Omar loses office. My point here is this has been going on for a long time, and they don't verify. So what happened before the election? Right before the election, Facebook limited the spread of the New York Post story. Okay, you know that. Twitter flat out locked the New York Post out of its account. They banned the Post, and they blocked users from sharing the article. So this is the only takeaway that you need. It's enough for an unfair, freest and safest election in history.
Best, yes.
There were polls going around that if people had known about this story, if people had known about this scandal, there was a poll that showed 9.4% of swing state voters would have changed their votes if they knew. 9.4% doesn't sound like a lot, but in swing states, that's enough. That means that Donald Trump, would have won Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada. Would have been a wipeout. And think about this for a second. The consequences of, again, let's set up, we're going to have the allies and the Axis. The Axis, okay, who do we have? We have former Vice President Biden and his screw-up son. We have Nancy Pelosi. We have everyone in the DNC, okay? So whole DNC, let's put them there. Then we have the media, legacy media, ABC, CNN, CBS, MSNBC, all of them. Everyone not named Fox News. All of print, outside of New York Post. Then who else do we have? We have the FBI. We have intelligence officials, FBI, CIA, DOJ. Then who else do we have? We have the most powerful companies that have ever existed in Google, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. All of them decided, you're not going to know about this story because we can't verify it. No one in this chain of command said, hey, you know what? Let's verify if this is true because we are on laptop number 3. So rather than Russian meddling, which is what the intelligence officials tried to sell you, we now know that if this had not been throttled by big tech and their lackeys in media and government, we would not only have President Trump. Think about what are the consequences. We very likely wouldn't have sky-high inflation. We very likely wouldn't have the Russia-Ukraine conflict. We absolutely wouldn't have had the Afghanistan withdrawal. And we likely would have had a bounce-back economy without you being perpetually locked down. That's all because of tech media censorship, who, by the way, are being directed by this government. You just saw Psaki calling for them. All because of tech censorship of one key story. That just changed the course of this country forever.
Watch Louder with Crowder live, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.